I hope you don't mind if I sit, but for years of motorcycle racing, I get a little worn out. My name is Mike Boyle. I'm president of the Gripsters Motorcycle Club. Our club has been around since 1959. It was originally founded by ex-servicemen who had a common interest in motorcycle racing. We promoted mostly scrambles and some desert races initially. We went on our pretty much what you'd call home track was the old Elsinore Raceway, which was on the east side of the freeway back in the canyons back. The initial owner of that was T.H. Pescal, who also owned a towing service and a wrecking yard here in town. He, over the years, he was an ex-racer. He had raced on Catalina Island at what they called the Catalina Grand Prix, which ran from 1950 to 1958. It ended up with the demise over there, lack of interest or whatever. But he thought his town of Elsinore would be ideal for that. At that time, you had about 3,500 people here, one high school and a sprinkling of elementary schools. There was open roads, there was roads in the hills, riverbed. It was ideal for a motorcycle race. We wanted to have an event, 10-mile lap around this beautiful town. And we were able to put it and provide a lot of interesting terrain for motorcyclists to enjoy.
Dave?
Our hierarchy at the time, they started in about 1964, I believe, had the concept and the idea. I mean, you know, we'd sit after the races and everybody'd kind of sit there and shoot the breeze. And, oh, you know, wouldn't it be great to have this? And T.H. he was the one primarily doing it. And they worked and went through the city council and stuff. Finally, in December of 1967, we were able to get an approval. I mean, it was a long-term meeting, and it took a little.
We're gonna, for people that don't know what the Elsinore Grand Prix is, we're gonna go ahead and play a section of a movie that was an Academy Award nominee for documentary. So that, on any Sunday.
Any Sunday.
Exactly.
The event is the Elsinore Grand Prix.
Hey.
1,500 motorcyclists line up in the main street waiting for the start.
One of the things that T.H. Paschal saw about the Catalina Grand Prix and why he missed it so much is when he looked around Lake Elsinore, he said, we could recreate this race here in this
1,500
town.
riders and 50,000 spectators fill the little town. It's a 100-mile race through the streets of the city and into the foothills outside of town. The average age of the 2,000 Elsinore residents is 60 years old. That's the only town in America that welcomes such an event. The residents love it, and so do the riders. Malcolm will be starting in the second row, Steve starting in the fourth row. Held back by a rope, riders leave at 10-second intervals, 10 abreast. It was supposed to be 10-second intervals, but it got a lot shorter than that. You could tell the most eager riders by the rope burns on their neck.
Those are our club members that decided, we'll try to start the race like a, those were our club members, and they thought, we'll hold them back by using the string. It later got turned into the clothesline at the start line.
It had rained a few days before, and there was a big puddle.
This is
As the
out
pack came
over
thundering
an
through,
area around
the water
Mission
puddle
Trail
turned into a
Avenue.
mud puddle. Then it turned into a mud hole. The first 200 riders made it through, but for the 1,300 yet to come, it was all stopped. A trophy for the winner. In fact, they paid a $15 entry fee for the honor of riding. While they were getting out of the mud hole, Malcolm had opened up a commanding lead. Malcolm rides so smoothly and effortlessly, he doesn't appear to be going very fast. He is. There's 1,499 riders behind him. When he came back through town at the end of the first lap, he was so far ahead, there were no other riders in sight.
That's Main Street. See all those straw bales in the background? This is the
The rest of
gentleman
the
that had
riders
to lay
thundering
those
through
down.
town was spooked with the spectators to see if they could get
This
across the
is what I
street
did.
before they got run over by a motorcycle. If you want to make you ride a year, it's usually the Elsinore Grand Prix. People of all ages, girls, the pig farmer from Marietta. There's only about 200 riders who are seriously competitive. For the rest, it's a great
Turn the
Sunday
air gone in
adventure.
the bunny outfit.
Doing wheelies through
He's right
town to
here.
dazzle their friends, bouncing off any object in sight, missing half the corners, and ripping out 10 miles of banners and dragging them back through town. The people of Elsinore can't believe what's going on in their town. They pull a chair up in their front yard and have a grandstand seat. Number 48, Steve McQueen, entered with the name of Harvey Mushman. But it didn't take long for the spectators to figure out who number 48 really was. She was dazzled, but her husband wasn't too impressed. Yeah, I could do that. Steve really earned the respect of his fellow riders. Some of them didn't realize what a good rider he really is. His car racing experience gives him the ability to pick the perfect line through the corners. In the subsequent Elsinore race, Steve crashed, broke his foot, got up and finished 8th, broken foot and all.
The subsequent race they're talking about is the Saturday race, where he raced a bike that was 250cc or below. This is the Sunday race where he was racing a larger size cc bike.
In the lead, but still time for a wave to a friend beside the course. Malcolm's got an uncanny sense for doing the right thing. Here, swerving off the course through a hole in the barbed wire fence and around the now cleaned out mud hole. Back through the fence again without missing a beat and passing 6 guys in the process. What's the guy who rides motorcycles every Sunday do for a living? Malcolm owns a motorcycle shop. In 10 laps, Malcolm passed 7,000 riders, some of them 3 times. Malcolm almost never makes a bobble or a mistake. It's about 200 feet down off the side of the road. When it was all over, it was Malcolm Smith. There he stood in the pits with his ear-to-ear grin. He didn't even look tired. Steve turned in a great ride, finishing 10th overall, riding against the best riders in the country for this kind of event.
Every time I start thinking the world is all bad, then I start seeing some people out having a good time on a motorcycle, and it makes me take another look. Oh, it was good fun.
Checkers.
There are a lot of things that are good fun on a motorcycle, like sidecar racing, so specialized that only about 200 people do it in the United States. The passenger is called the monkey. He's usually flat on one side.
Okay, we're done. Okay. Tell the audience the deal that Bruce Brown, the producer on this movie
On
on
a Sunday, he had been a documentary movie producer, mostly of surf films before that. Getting some great surf films. I don't know if anybody's ever seen any of his work, but he decided to get into the motorcycle filming and created quite a great film. He came to us and wanted to know if he could film our event. We said certainly, and he filmed it along with a lot of other events, and a couple of years later, his movie came out, and it was a success. In fact, that movie was such a success, it came out again a few years ago again in a remastered form that really improved the viewing image of the picture. The one thing that was sad was, as they showed Malcolm Smith winning, sadly, he didn't win. And the only reason, because on that mountain road that you saw back there, he had a little slip. He knocked his number plate off, and with 1,500 riders, if you don't see a number plate,
when you come through the checkpoints.
when you come to the checkpoint, you're not going to be able to score them. Well, he didn't have his number plate, and sadly, he was determined to not be the winner. We had to give it to the person that everybody says was second place, but they were the first one to make it through their number plate on their motorcycle.
Yeah.
That mud hole scene, that actually, when that happened, everybody jammed up there, and we're not really sure who loosened up that fence. No idea. But it worked well for the people to be able to avoid that mud hole, because that mud hole was a mess. I was fortunate enough to be able to ride it. A few of our members were, because we were in contention in various other forms of racing for number plates, and of course we got points by racing a Grand Prix. And the mud hole was a definite mud hole. The start, which you saw with the rope, it was a great idea in theory until people got antsy. When you do that, and as you saw, people getting caught around their necks and stuff like that, but it still, I mean, it was organized chaos, to be honest with you. And we got all 1,500 people out, and pretty much in the order that they were supposed to have been out. I mean, there was, of course, one or two that snuck their way up, but that happens. There's people like that. Our club enjoyed putting on events like that. We did it for years, you know. As I said, T.H. Pasco was instrumental in it. He was the one put the idea in our head and kept, that we would go out and race at a scrambles track pretty much every Saturday night year round. And he would always afterwards talk about it and, oh yeah, that's a great idea. And finally it came to, you know, we were finally able to do it. The one thing that was great, and this town will always be noted by the fact Honda in 1973 came out with the CR250M that they called the Elsinore. And that was one of their most popular dirt bike models. Before that, there was a few other manufacturers that had named their motorcycles after various events. 1959 BSA had a Catalina Scrambler, and in the 60s Yamaha had a two-cylinder scrambler they called the Big Bear.
There were other famous motor events also, like the Daytona, that was named into a motorcycle. There was
Triumph
the Bonneville,
Daytona, yes.
Triumph Daytona, the Bonneville, and the Indian Springfield. So there's very, very few motorcycles or towns or names of events that have the distinction of having a motorcycle named after them in the Western world. There are some in like India and in Indonesia and some in China, but we don't even see those motorcycles. So.
Launch Point over here has an Elsinore bike on display in their office. It's up on a pedestal.
Is it?
Yes, yes.
We have
Pretty
two over in our area.
There's
There's
two
250
eras.
and a
There's
125.
two eras of Elsinores
Yeah,
back here in the corner.
The one you have
Yeah.
here is a real nice 1980 Elsinore, which was like the second edition of it. I mean, they changed the suspension and did everything. Back in the day, in the 68 Elsinore Grand Prix, a motorcycle that had a lot of suspension might have had 3.5 inches of suspension. Now, if you can imagine these people going as fast as they can, or as fast as they dare, with 3.5 inches of suspension over that, I mean, they're bouncing, they're banging, they're beating their bodies up. And you know, they were sore the next day. I don't care how well trained you are, you're sore the next day.
You notice their outfits weren't up to par to today's.
Oh,
A
the
lot of
safety
guys-
equipment was, yeah.
A lot of the, back then, a lot of the guys were pretty much outfitted with the Sears Roebuck and Company. The work gloves, the work boots, the denim jeans, and a Pendleton.
Some of the guys that really got wild got into a little bit of soccer gear. They might get some soccer leg protection. If, you know, if they were really, really hardcore and afraid. Soccer jerseys, rugby jerseys were popular also. An example of the type of jersey that,
I'll get it.
oh, this is similar, I mean, this is a replica, but this is similar to the type of jerseys that a lot of us rode back in those days.
Yeah, pretty much the name on the back side and the club logo on the front side. You know, it kind of follows, some of the clubs, it can be very visible in their colors, just like horse jockey, just like horse
I
racing
mean, the
jockey.
Gripsters, we use this, and of course, there was the checkers, they're pretty
Checkers are
distinguishable with their checkered outfits.
Like to
In fact, I think I
BMC.
see a checkered shirt right over there.
Yeah,
The biggest thing with the concept, when we finally started getting rolling, it took a lot of approval. We had to get the city council,
motorcycle.
we got the Chamber of Commerce behind us, and of course, approval from the sheriff. I mean, it took a lot of work. We had hours and hours before we even got to setting up the course.
It all began in 1964 to get a race in February of 1968.
It still takes that long.
Well, longer now. But the city council, the city fathers, were a great help for us, and it did a lot for the town in a lot of ways. A lot of people were able to come to town, book hotel rooms, eat here, buy gas, buy groceries, spend a lot of money.
Beer.
A little bit of beer too.
Beer, wine, whiskey, gin, vodka.
Speaking of beer, I mean, Steve McQueen that they were talking about, when I recall when he came in to sign up, he came in late, you know, trying to not get a lot of publicity or anything. He just kind of came in, signed up as Harvey Mushman, as they said. Well, we all kind of went behind the sign-up shack because we were closed, and he sat there, and he was one of those people, he sat there and had a beer with the boys, you know, just a nice gentleman.
One of the things, tell the story about that December 1967 city council meeting where you guys were sitting till midnight.
Yeah, they had a lot of items on the agenda. We were trying to get our approval, and finally one of our gentlemen, who was our president at the time, Morty Gomez, he finally...
You used to live here in Lake Elsinore.
He actually, at the time he was living in Orange County, but when he retired, he was so impressed with the town, him and his family moved out here, and in fact, he passed 2 years ago, his wife still lives here. And a lot of other people came to this area just after the races. They just thought it was a nice area to visit. Bob Scranton.
We'll get to Bob in a second. That city council meeting, the city council, now I've had a chance to go back and actually read all the city council minutes, which I absolutely love. They're available on the city's website. From 1959 all the way to 1978. I'm watching the style of the city clerk's way of doing minutes, you know, very little bit, and it always changes right after this, like, convention of cities, where they get together and they learn how to be a better city clerk and a different style on how to write the minutes and that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm going through this kind of stuff, watching these fluctuations and actually the evolution of city clerkhood come alive. And I'm looking for what everybody in the club has talked about, everything. It was like this marathon city council meeting. It was, you know, mid-December, and I finally find the agenda item, but they didn't take any minutes on it because the city council had gone off agenda for 2 hours. And the Gripsters agenda item hadn't even been gotten to, and the topic that they were trying to hash over was, how can we come up with $200 to help pay for the prescription medication for our elderly residents? You know, the state we didn't have Medicare back then. And the city council sit there going, where could we find, you know, this $200? We need this for some of these key residents. It's really serious. Finally, Morty just stands up and he's like, it's almost midnight. And he's like, I still have to drive home to go to work. He goes, if our club just gives you $200, can we move on to our agenda item?
And it worked.
And it worked. And it worked. They're like, cash from heaven, you know. But I think it's a really neat story in how the elderly were also represented in the movie, and that was a completely separate production from what the Gripsters were trying to produce here in town. So yeah, it's a true story. We've heard a lot about it. We've done the best of our research, and that's the best story that we have so far on that particular topic.
And the thing that was really cool, I mean, as I raced, it was neat to be shooting down there. I mean, out the corner of your eye, you were seeing residents, I mean, the little old ladies out there in their sundresses on their porch, watching the event, and they're just like that. It's cool. I mean, I don't recall seeing anybody that was negative towards the event. Everybody seemed to be having a good time, enjoying themselves, and that's what we were trying to do. We wanted to produce an event that the riders could enjoy doing it, but it would be good entertainment for the people. Sadly, with the On Any Sunday, the only detriment to that was the fact that the following year after it came out, there was an influx of spectators, and it got a little bit out of hand. And the reason our club, one of the reasons our club, other than the fact that there was just too much going on, was the fact that one of the spectators was on the street. On the other side of the street is a liquor store. Well, she decides she was out of beer.
Yeah.
So she has two small children, she starts across the street. Well, a motorcyclist is coming, the kids get out of the way, she didn't. She ended up getting hit. She got, not seriously hurt, she got scarred up and stuff. Sadly, she, of course, got an attorney. We had decent insurance and stuff. We ended up winning in court. The reason that she sued, she was a quote-unquote exotic dancer and her business assets were damaged. She got some scars.
There's a good story.
Yeah. Like I said, we were
Assets were damaged.
Oh, my God.
You know, that on top of the movie, I think it was in 1971, the city council decided instead of having an infinite number of pre-entries for the Grand Prix, they did drop it down to 1,000. In the documentary here, you notice they say that there were 1,500 entries. So I believe it's 1971 where the city says 1,000 entries. That's it. So like 500 for Saturday, 500 for Sunday. And it stayed that way into 1972 also. So one of our club members, Diane, she's the daughter of Mary and Morty Gomez. Even in 1968, she dreaded Grand Prix season because it meant duffel bags from the U.S. Postal Service. And being typical with motorcycle clubs back in the day, it was a very multi-generational experience. You know, you got the kids involved, you got the wife involved, everybody got involved and did it, and all they did was process the entries. And I'll just go ahead and skip to Bob Scranton here. This is postmarked February 19th, 1970. And this is from a local gentleman that moved here to Lake Elsinore because of the Grand Prix. And in this package that we received, he was given race number 589, and we never would have known that had the post stamp not been bent back a little bit, but that was his race number, and he's also seen in this movie. And here's a picture of him in the mud pit.
He was young when he first moved. I think he was, what, 18 when he first moved out here, right out of high school.
Yeah.
And he moved out here, purchased a house, and he got married within 2 weeks.
Yeah, graduated, purchased a house in Meadowbrook, and got married from Stanton, California. In this here, what we found from this the Scranton family archive, which by the way, the Scranton family is now into their 3rd generation of racers that have all raced the various editions of the Grand Prix. But here's the set of rules that the Gripsters mailed to Mr. Scranton, a list of all of the Lake Elsinore motel and hotel accommodations, plus the rates, And over here is a list of the campgrounds. So you could see the, which campgrounds they were, their addresses, everything else like that. We thought that was really incredible. And I think in probably 5 or 6 more years, there will be a 4th generation of Scranton racers. They've settled on side-by-sides at this point.
And initially, when we applied to the American Motorcycle Association for our event,
For the
the
1968
inaugural
event.
68 event, which we've always been an American Motorcycle Association club. We are now a historical club. We're not a promoting club anymore. But we received the sanction for that year, number 0001. And, well, I can't say unfortunately, kind of comically, they sanctioned it as a road race. Well, yeah, there was a bit of road. We did do some of the streets, but I think the best part was being up in the hills up there, and that one part they showed you with that 200-foot drop. That is fun. That is a lot of fun.
Those are
Cheney, that's right above Cheney.
That's where I watched it from.
I should know the names of these streets. Let's see, those would be Ridge Road and Scenic Drive, Franklin Avenue. Yeah, but a lot of those dirt roads up there that you saw in the movie are still city streets.
Not
Yeah.
dirt roads anymore.
They're not?
Franklin's paved.
Oh, Franklin's paved, yes.
Yeah, the Elsinore Grand Prix at that time was the largest race of its kind in the United States west of the Mississippi River. And it took a lot of work. Our membership at any given time, probably the highest it's ever been, is about 42 members. So we had to rely on our family, our friends, our co-workers, anybody we could get to come out and help us. I mean, we had people, their brothers-in-law, whatever. It was just, we're so grateful for any help that we could get. I mean, it's kind of like you hear, any help you get to help with your museum, it's always well appreciated.
True that.
Over the years, 68 was a dry year. Unfortunately, 1969 and 1970, we had the water that you saw. And it created havoc, like I said, they did the fence so people could kind of sneak through. And it was a good thing, because I mean, it was a mess. You could see those bikes were just buried in there. And I've been there and done that. It's not fun to have your bike stuck in mud. Bruce Brown, of course, it was just for what he did for the city of Elsinore and for motorcycling in itself by that film. I mean, lots of people saw it, lots of people who have never heard of Lake Elsinore, all of a sudden, gee, where's that? So it increased interest in this little town. I mean, at the time when we first did it in 1968, my understanding there was about 3,500 people here in town. I'm not sure what the population is now, but I'm sure it's much more than that.
71,000.
Yeah, 71,000.
71,000?
Yeah.
Mike, some of the people that also helped out was like, John Merrifield.
Oh, yeah, T.H. Pascal was a promoter, but we had a lot of help. John Merrifield, he did a lot with the advertising. He was also the man that provided the ambulances that we had to have on the course. Fortunately, we didn't have much use for his ambulances, but he had furniture and appliances. He had a Montgomery Wardens. He had a repair shop. He had a taxi service. He had a lot of businesses going in this town. He was a nice person.
Yeah, so him and TH were kind of like, we gotta get this event here, we gotta get this event here, you know? We need more people in this town, you know, so.
Yeah, he was always, every Saturday night, one of his ambulances would be up there at Elsinore Raceway as a standby ambulance.
After we're done with this presentation, the door to the office here has this beautiful US GS quadrangle that shows downtown Lake Elsinore, Tuscany Hills, and Canyon Lake. And in that picture, we don't know what year that picture was taken. It's like a satellite photo. But the guess is somewhere around 1970, 72, somewhere in there. You can actually see where Elsinore Raceway is at the base of Tuscany Hills. This would be like this picture here. This is the raceway here. And this picture was probably taken from one of the backyards on one of the streets in Tuscany Hills. And you can see that. If anybody's interested in, if they're like a mapophile or, you know, loves maps, I have all the layouts for all the Grand Prix courses back during the original Elsinore Grand Prix set over there, and you can just pick them up and see which streets and where the courses kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, the interesting thing about riding on the streets, it's not like riding your street bike around, because after people got out there and slid into the hay bales a little bit and this and that, the straw from the hay bales breaks away. Well, the majority of these people were riding with knobby tires, which don't have near the traction on asphalt that you would have anyway. So you get that hay on there. It made for some exciting moments for the spectators to see.
Has anybody ever ridden a motorcycle on snow? Yeah, straw.
Indian bar.
Yeah, straw and asphalt and knobby tires is like riding on snow.
In 1972, the Elsinore Valley Chamber of Commerce became the title sponsor. The Gripsters still had the duty of sanctioning race through the AMA, setting up the course and stewardship. Some club members did get to race to keep up on the leading points, and I sure enjoyed it that year also.
So that would be the club members that were like, their points are so high they could have gotten first, second, or third for the year, maybe fourth or fifth. But if their chances of getting a trophy at that time of the year is just like, no, you're not racing, you're working. You know, being a club member meant that you were not a volunteer anymore, you were voluntold.
Yeah, our membership, like I said, we had 42 people at the most. One of the amazing things, 4 of our members were actually Eagle Scouts before they became members of our club. And I think a lot of the tenacity that they learned in the Eagle Scouts, as Eagle Scouts, helped the work ethic that we had to use to put on the event. We had one of our members, who was also one of the Eagle Scouts. He rode for the United States in the ISDT, which is a world-class event. He was a gold team member in 1976. His name was Mike Hanna. And we fortunately have people, when we were laying out the track, that had the experience like Mike. And we were able to come up with a great course. I mean, and if it wouldn't have been for the people of Elsinore, I mean, everybody was just so nice to us. I mean, we were out there working and people would wave to us and stuff. I mean, it was just a super, super friendly town, nice people. And you know, sadly, after the accident I was telling you about and the release of the movie, there was just so many people, it was just too much for our little group to try to go on beyond that. So that's when we had to kind of call it quits. And subsequently, other people came on and put on Grand Prix, and I mean, my understanding now, it's got down to the point where it's pretty much over at the motocross track here, and it's pretty, you know, it's not near, there's no way that they have any mileage. I mean, the 10 miles was just the epitome of a race.
Not near as much fun.
Not near as much fun.
No
Not-
Main Street, that's what was good, Main
Well,
Street, yeah.
Back then, back in the 1960s, the definition of a Grand Prix was 50% asphalt and 50% dirt.
Yeah.
And that has had to change as we've had all the Grand Prix that were dirt bike Grand Prix. That has had to be adjusted and amended and everything else like that. Currently, there is an entire series under the AMA that has 10 clubs, NGPC,
Yeah,
National
it
Grand
was the
Prix.
big six, which became the 8, and now with the NGPC, it's 10 clubs.
Yeah, it's 10 clubs. I don't think they're even adhering to the definition of the course to be a Grand Prix with the 50% asphalt, 50% dirt. And the same happens, you know, here in Elsinore. It's like, where are we gonna get it? We can't get it, but we still wanna put on a race. So,
Well, the other thing too, when I was planning my speech to come out here, I called, there's not a whole lot of us left, but I called some of our old members that were there to see what their comments would be. One of the fellows that sliding on his knobs, going down the street, sliding in the straw, that was, and the excitement of the locals, the excitement of the people spectating was his biggest thing. And then he says, how did we pull it off? Another gentleman said his biggest thing was the locals and their enthusiasm. And of course, we have to thank without the Chamber of Commerce, the City Council, the Sheriff,
the local businesses.
local businesses. I mean, you bring all those people into town, if it wasn't for local businesses having rooms available and this and that, it would have been a big mess. And with that, I don't know if CJ has anything else to add, but I think I pretty much said,
Getting ready to do this presentation, we really focused on just the basics of the original Elsinore Grand Prix. You know, where the concept came from and how that was carried on. And I've got to tell you, every time there has been another edition of the Grand Prix, because it took a very long hiatus from 1973 all the way up to 1996, but there's a caveat in there. The club members from 96 on up were always like, wow, they're recreating our race. Do you know how rare that is? There's very few clubs that race motorcycles, you know, they're very multi-generational, that have had the honor of watching somebody else try to take on something that you had put in, you know, blood, sweat, tears, straw bales, Band-Aids, you know, late nights, driving on highways back home with no lights or anything else like that. And
Right,
they were always excited about it. They're like, wow, they're redoing our Grand Prix.
and the
That's
one thing
awesome.
back then, when we were going back and forth doing this event, like I said, we were out here every Saturday anyway at Elsinore Raceway. We didn't have the 91 freeway. We had what was called Santa Ana Canyon Road.
And Temescal Canyon.
How did you pull it off without cell phones?
I'm gonna interrupt for just a minute and give them a little time to ask questions.
Sure.
as
Okay,
the
I just had one other comment I was gonna make
That's a great
before
idea.
that, was the fact that, to us, this event, also the other big thing that enabled us to do it was the American Motorcyclist Association, which is what it's called
We
now,
call it AMA.
AMA. Last year was their 100th year of being around. We've been around since 1959, and to us, if somebody puts on an event, they wanna call it the Elsinore Grand Prix, sure it would be nice if they would have an AMA sanction with it. That's the way it should be.
But that's, if, talking to our club members, they would love to see, not only have an old event revived, but historically revived, to have the national points status, to have the motorcyclists in the community helping out with it. You know, that's what they would like to see, but, you know, we're not gonna die on the cross for that one.
And hopefully your motorcycle park here in town will be able to get back up on its legs again. Because that's one thing that I've found, is the kids that are riding motorcycles aren't the ones that go out and get in trouble. They're not the ones out doing drugs and this and that. They're the good kids. So if you got your kids out on motorcycles, you're doing well.
Any questions?
I was just gonna say, the motocross track is just about ready to come back online, but also, just so you know, the chamber is working with the city of Lake Elsinore and a promoter, and designing maps that would start on Main Street, go out Lake Shore, up to the mountains, so it's gonna be back in '26.
So it'll be not only a city, but a county and a
Well,
federal?
city, around the properties, gotta get around all these new homes and everything, so
Because
obviously
we
gotta be.
GPS that in
But yes.
2007.
About how much length is the course gonna have?
Still designing that right now, and getting feedback from the motorcycle community. A lot of them are about the nostalgia, not necessarily the length. So we're having discussions about different courses, but we are planning to bring it back in 2026.
That's good news.
One last thing before we get to questions. I did something yesterday, and I put on a different lens. I come on, put on the rose-colored glasses when I was going through the original race programs from the Grand Prix. I have all 5 of them right here. You folks are welcome to thumb through them. And I started going, let's just look at the local advertisers. And that's, if you didn't have a race program back in those days, you canceled the race. If you didn't have the funding for a race program, the race was canceled because we didn't have online. We didn't have a way to, register. That's how everybody proved that, hey, I'm somebody, I raced this race because I'm pre-registered and my name is in here. And that business model has changed since then. And it was so interesting to see what businesses were here. The addresses are still here. The addresses are still the same. The businesses have changed. But there is a handful of businesses that are still here that have the same address. And you folks are welcome. We have a few of the advertisers like Sunshine Liquor. And
Sunshine Ranch, yeah.
the
Ranch.
Arco Station is one of them. There was a Big O Tire, Aloha, Sporting Goods. They're not with us anymore, but
So they'll see those in those programs?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Pioneer
But if you
Lumber.
watch the movie, you'll see the houses that that lady's sitting in, so the kids backing up their houses are still sitting there.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's missing out of that is the 76 towers.
Yeah, the 76 towers are always a
Been there
big,
for the longest time.
And you can see, the railroad tracks like right here. This is City Park in the background, and this is, I think, Limited Street. Yeah.
Can I ask, is that a picture of the towers?
Right, but they're not in,
Right.
now they're gone.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Are they gonna have, if they run the Elsinore Grand Prix, is it gonna be in town?
We
That-
don't know.
They're working on the route right now.
it sounded like he said something about Main Street, I thought I
Start
heard.
on Main
That's
Street.
the only reason I came, because they were still in town, and that's why I wanted to.
Yeah, going down Main Street,
That was my most thing I could say, I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've heard
That's
that
what
a
Kim
lot.
Pleasant said. that
I
they're gonna
volunteered
start
for
it.
the Grand Prix from 2002 to 2006, and then continued on until about 2014 at all the Grand Prix, just esprit de corps, just to be there to help out. The Gripsters weren't there, but I went as an individual Carol, any questions?
I wanted
Looking
to,
forward to it. I hope it transpires next year and we get to race through Main Street again and.
That'd be fun.
Well, you know the picture they showed, the guy with the banners? If you go to Bruce Stopper's lawnmower shop,
Yeah.
he did the exact same thing. I took the picture, and he had banners stuck on him because he ran through the banners from the freeway, and I actually took the shot.
Bruce Stoffer of Stoffer's Lawn Equipment on Mission Trail, and he's raced the Elsinore Grand Prix many times, and he's raced many other races. Little factoid about Bruce is he used to also repair all the heavy equipment at the Lake Elsinore Motocross Park, gratis, for, you know, from 2002, 1999, until up around 2008. He did all the equipment, just, here, I'll fix it for you guys, the water truck, whatever it was, he would have it fixed.
He was one of the reasons why I raced it. We got to talk to him, and he had the early plate number, mine was 49 or something, but it was only during the, not Bruce Brown, I mean, Goat Records. That's where I,
Yeah, the
when
GFI
Goat Records
says.
took over,
Yeah.
that's when I came.
I want to thank Kim and all you members of the Historical Society for having us. And if there's any more questions, otherwise I'll turn it back over to Kim.
Thank you. Can I get a round of applause?